What is up, freaks? It's your boy Marty Bent here to introduce this week's episode with Evan Kaloudis from the ZeusLN.app, the creator of ZeusLN.app. Go check that out. We talk all about it in the episode. Evan is a incredible builder, working on some really cool stuff. He's got a good security background. Matt and I drank some moonshine with him and talked about a bunch of stuff. We got a little passionate at the end, so I think you freaks are going to enjoy this. This week's episode of Tales from the Crypt is sponsored by Cash App. Cash App has been number one in the finance section of the App Store for almost 2 years. It was the first major... reading the wrong ad. God damn it. Well, this happens sometimes. I'm going to start out. We got new ad copy for the Cash App. You guys are going to get that outtake. I'll give you that outtake as I scroll to the new copy, because we got new copy, because it got new functionalities now that you can buy stocks. Tales from the Crypt is brought to you by the Cash App. As you know, Cash App is the simplest way to send and save money, and now it's the simplest way to grow your money. Introducing Cash App Investing. Unlike investing tools that only let you buy entire shares of stocks, Cash App lets you instantly invest as little or as much as you want. This way, when your favorite company's stock is just a little too expensive, you can still own a piece with as little as $1. So you can stack stocks now if you want to. So you can still stack sats, send sats, receive sats. Because Cash App is directly connected to your bank account, there are no 4 to 5 day waiting periods for your inbound transfers. So you can start investing today. Brokerage services are provided by Cash App Investing, a subsidiary of Square and member SIPC. And as always, use the code StackingSats. You're going to get $5, and $5 is going to go to Owls Lacrosse. Owls Lacrosse. I've heard a few of your freaks think Owls Lacrosse is Owls Lacrosse. A-L-apostrophe-S. It is Owls, O-W-L-S. Sorry for my Philly accent coming out in that pronunciation. Pretty poor there. But actually, we have some good news. Caught up with Sam Angelada, who is the executive director of Owls, over the weekend. Cash App delivered the money we raised from the Stacking Sats promo code to Sam last week. And that money is enough to provide a student with academic and athletic resources throughout the year. So good on you, freaks, who downloaded the Cash App and used the code Stacking Sats. We're going to keep this going, thinking about maybe potentially doing... a campaign for Owls leading up to Christmas or something like that. We'll mull that over the next couple of months or so and let you know about that. But still, stacking stats, you're going to get 5. It's still going to go to Owls. Let's pump those stats. Get those, pump those stats, stack those sats. Use the Cash App. Use the code Stacking Sats. This episode's also brought to you by Casa. Our friends at Casa have drummed up one of the smartest and most secure ways to hodl your Bitcoin. They got really cool products out there. They just launched their second node. They have their multi-sig services, which are separate from the node, and they can help you protect your Bitcoin, get peace of mind. They're going to walk you through an OPSEC plan. There's no KYC, no altcoins, no percentage fees on your Bitcoin, no one standing between you and your keys. And they have packages, so depending on what you're looking to do specifically, how much Bitcoin you're looking to secure using Casa as a solution, you can get diamond, platinum, gold memberships. But for serious hodlers, you're going to go diamond or platinum, and that's going to net you 24/7 VIP service, dedicated client advisors, and custom onboarding and OPSEC plan. Again, they're going to go through your OPSEC plan. Email them at membership at team.casa. Throw your hardest OPSEC questions at them. Have them walk you through their product. They're very open to this. They'll let you test it out before you engage. Use the code TFTC if you do decide to go with Casa, and you're going to get up to $250 off your Casa membership. Yeah, they're all about privacy. They're working on privacy tech. They're always thinking about the end user and securing Bitcoin, giving you peace of mind. So go check out Casa at keys.casa/keymaster. Enjoy this episode, freaks. Evan, Matt, and I had a very good time drinking moonshine. Okay.
Tales from the Crypt.
Cheers, cheers.
What is up, freaks? Ooh, it's your boy Marty Bent, and he just took his first sip of moonshine ever. It wasn't too bad. Why are you grimacing over there?
Questionable. Questionable.
Obviously, Matt Odell is with us. We're joined with Evan Kaloudis as well. Just been corrected to how to say your name correctly. I'm sorry for mispronouncing.
Hey, no worries. Sup, freaks? Just really glad to be on the podcast. Big fan, long-time fan.
Well, I'm pumped to have you here. Pumped for this conversation. For you freaks that don't know, Evan is the creator of the ZeusLN.app. It's a Zeus Lightning Network wallet, and he's a New York Bitcoiner. He has been co-hosting the Bitcoin Citadel demonstrations with our good friend Matt Odell. We've only done one at Chain Code, but it's just a good Bitcoiner, and I'm happy to have him. He's got moonshine. Let's start, before we ease into Bitcoin and Lightning Network, what the fuck are we drinking?
So, yeah, I think this might be one of the stranger presented liquors you guys have had on the show.
Yeah, it came in a water bottle.
Yeah, just like this clear, unmarked water bottle. This is from my yaya. My great-grandmother, she brought this from my grandfather's village in Epirus, which is the very northern tip of Greece. You could pretty much see Albania from our little house there. And I had the option of, bringing Marty and Matt either, a bottle of Tsipura from, duty-free, or bring them the real authentic stuff. And, I had to do it big, so.
We got the authentic stuff. It tastes good. Moonshine scares me. Should I be scared of moonshine? I've never drank it before, and people say you can go blind. What is it about? I never knew there was Greek moonshine. I thought moonshine was indigenous to Appalachian states here in America.
Oh, no, we got a couple of takes on it.
US-centric of you.
We got Tsipura, we got Raki. Man, I had a great experience with my godbrother Michali drinking Raki, not last year, but 2 summers ago. It got me and my girlfriend really drunk, so shouts to Michali for that. Yeah, the Greeks don't mess around with, the liquor. We've got our moonshine, we like a little bit of whiskey. We've got our wines, a lot of red wines.
So you've got a lot of extended family in Greece, and you grew up here, though, right?
Yeah, I was, born in Queens, raised in Long Island. Sort of always been in New York State my whole life.
Big fat Greek family?
Well, when you get past the first degree of cousins and you go to second and third cousins, it gets a little hairy. So, it gets hard to remember everyone's names at the holidays sometimes. But, it's a big family. It's a great family.
Yeah, and you were just back in Greece, right?
Yeah. I just went, was it like 2 months ago I was there? I was in Athens for a week. I was in Zakynthos, a beautiful island, for a week. Athens was really cool because I got to sync up with the Athens Bitcoiners there. They did a little impromptu social gathering, and it was just great to see all the figures in the scene just getting together. And
what's it like over there? Is there a lot of Bitcoiners in Greece?
Dude, I was surprised by this meetup. It was like 30, 40 people came out or something like that. And different groups and whatnot. We had some people there that weren't pure Bitcoiners. Some people working on Ethereum too, and intrigued by the smart contract stuff. But yeah, a lot of honest, tried and true Bitcoiners out there. This guy Dimitri organizes the meetup, and he's gotten some great speakers out there from Antonopoulos, who's also Greek, to Amir Taki. I think he's gotten to come speak out there. We got this guy Argy. He passed me the LN torch. So that was another fun thing. We got Zeus, or myself rather, in on the LN torch thing. And my goal was to get the torch and send it to Greece, but it actually ended up being the other way around. So this guy Argy passed me the torch, and I'm like, you know what? It got to Greece. That's all I care. And I got to meet him and sit down with him, and we had some really amazing, in-depth discussions from, politics, all these different labels, Antifa.
What are your thoughts on Antifa?
Antifa, oh man, now you're hitting me with the loaded question. We spoke a lot about this because Argy was sort of getting chewed out by some more American-leaning, as far as ideology, Bitcoiners, right? And it's just it really comes down to cultural differences at the end of the day. Fascism was widespread through Europe, but we don't really have that equivalent in the States. I don't think so. I don't think we've seen real fascism in America ever, really.
Well, what was the fascism like in Europe that you're speaking of? Like, what do you?
You're talking about Franco and Mussolini and Hitler to, in his own way. Antifa there was just like, reactionary to all this messed up stuff that was going on. And, in that different context, it doesn't like really make sense in the same way that it does in the United States.
In what way?
It's just the way that they treat people out on the streets. Like, for example, if Antifa in Greece, right, started attacking innocent bystanders, there would be a reaction from the more right radical revolutionaries, or not revolutionaries, but radicals like Christiavgi, Golden Dawn in Greece. Like, those things aren't tolerated, really.
Yeah, and this all stems back to like the 2008, 2009 crisis, and that's one of my favorite chapters in Boomerang, a book by Michael Lewis, who wrote Moneyball and The Big Short and Liar's Poker and a bunch of other books. One of his underscored books, I've talked about it on this podcast before, Boomerang, though. They did like a whole chapter on Greece, Italy, how they got added into the EU, like how their balance sheets were basically manipulated by Goldman Sachs and the IMF to get them into the European Union, and then it hasn't been a great ride, right? Like
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty crazy there. So the week that I was there in Athens, they had just lifted their capital controls. It's crazy. Like
what were their capital controls in particular?
It was withdrawal limits at the ATMs, and I think it was something like $300 a day. I think it may have been less. They eventually turned that daily limit into like a combined weekly limit. That helped a little bit, but that was in place until the week I was there. It's like 2 months ago. So it's just sort of mind-boggling that we still have these restrictions in place, or that they're so common.
Yeah, well, let's use this as an opportunity to circle back. Like, why the hell did you get into Bitcoin in the first place? Like, does this stuff drive you towards Bitcoin in particular, or did you come to it from a tech perspective?
It's really a lot of different angles I came at it from. I have this my godbrother's father's a bit of a gold bug. He manages a hedge fund, and he really got me into a lot of like the Austrian school of thought, and he's always tried to push on me the idea of gold is money, everything else is dead, or bullshit, more or less. And then
is he your crazy uncle, or?
He's certainly crazy, but he's like he's brilliant too. Like certainly a little too extreme at times. Oftentimes doesn't know his audience, but he's still brilliant nonetheless.
I think. I feel like the gold bugs and the hard money advocates like us Bitcoiners, we're starting to have our day. I feel like people are starting to come around to gold and Bitcoin as money. I mean, obviously, the Real Vision episode that dropped today was safe. It's gotten like a good reaction from the gold bugs, from my observation at least. So gold was one thing. You're a dev as well. You're building on this. Did you come to it first from economics and then be like, oh shit, I could build stuff on this, or?
It was all at once, because so really it was like a 3-year journey, I would say. So that first year that I went to school, I went to Fordham University.
Go Rams. Go Rams.
So that first year, that first semester really is when Occupy Wall Street really started going up. Mm-hmm. And I was living on the floor with a great group of guys, and just one day we decided to go see what the Zuccotti Park protests were all about. I think what really pushed us to the edge was we heard a rumor that Radiohead was going to show up and play a set, and they didn't. I think some other indie rock band, like I think the lead singer of Neutral Milk Hotel went and played, Jeff Mangum. But anyway, we didn't catch that. But we did, we ended up seeing what was going on. We saw all the energy down there. And, not everyone came back, but I found myself going back, 5-6 times.
What was the vibe like?
Oh, it was crazy. It was chaotic, and that's what a lot of people tell you about Occupy Wall Street. That's why it didn't work. The different people had different demands. It was unorganized. Demands weren't really serious, but there was also differing opinions there too. You had people showing up with suits, smoking cigars with cardboard cutouts of Ronald Reagan, saying that Reagan was the best president. You had these extreme leftists. You had Peter Schiff down there. Peter Schiff did an incredible debate of dismantling of all these leftists down at Occupy Wall Street.
I remember he had one video about like the minimum wage, right? Or
he would just debate like random people, right?
Yeah, this was like, he would
YouTube.
talk to someone until they would pretty much rage quit, and he did this for like, I don't know, there's like 10 or 15 people on YouTube, and it spanned like 50 minutes, and we were there just watching it live. We're like, he was just so thorough and pragmatic with his dismantling of these ideas. Like, it wasn't his first time at the rodeo. And, even though Peter Schiff is somewhat of an enemy of Bitcoin right now, I always remember
him an enemy. He's a hard money advocate. That's an ally that doesn't know it.
Yeah. He's not Krugman. He's not a central banker.
He shows gold because that's what his business is, but he definitely owns Bitcoin.
I hope so. And I really think
he'll
he
admit
should.
it, but he didn't buy it. It was sent to him.
No, besides that Bitcoin. Besides the Bitcoin that like Palm sent to him and like some other people sent to him.
Yeah, so
I think he'll come around.
I hope so, because I've been tweeting at him a little bit. I'm like, Peter, there's no law that says you either have to sell gold or Bitcoin. You can sell both, man. Like, they're both gonna advance, your ideas of freedom. They're both competing against the U.S. dollar, Fed funny money. Why not? I mean,
why not? That's a good question. Why not, Peter?
I mean, I prefer Bitcoin over gold. Maybe he does too, and he realizes it. So he's like, I gotta check it for as long as possible while I dump my bags.
Yeah. Well, I think he'll come around. He'll be forced to come around. But again, like I've become more of a believer that we should try to reach out to the gold bugs and use them as allies in our fight for hard money. And they had the most in common with us when it comes to economic views on this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And, it's not like the easiest thing to come around to. So, like I was saying, me coming into Bitcoin, like, it took me like 3 years to really have that like aha moment, where I'm like, this makes total sense. And this isn't just like, some just average person. I was studying computer science. I had my Uncle Savas telling me all this crazy, Austrian stuff and contrarian views. It sort of takes time to like really, really click, just because of, all the pieces that are involved and all the different levels you have to think about it on.
What were the different stages you went through, and what was the final aha moment where like, fuck, I'm gonna start building shit for this?
Yeah, I mean, from the Occupy stuff and seeing how bad the banks got bailed out while people who were really struggling got kicked to the curb, or to see the bail-ins in Cyprus, that was really a big moment that made me dive into it. And then, seeing all the sort of commerce that happened on the Silk Road, both good and bad, but was ultimately new to us in cyberspace. But it's really just the interactions you have personally with the protocol and with the money that really highlight it. You need the personal context for it to all click. So I guess like one of the best examples is I guess about 3 or 4 years ago, I went to London to visit my buddy Rob. Rob and I he helped me start this music site called beatsperminute.com.
That's a good story.
Yeah, Rob and I, we had met online. We had worked on this site for years. He was the editor-in-chief for a couple of years too. I spent a week with him, and we I tallied up a pretty big bill, and in UK they use a lot of their like touch cards on their debit card. So at the end of the week, when we said, okay, let's settle up, what do I owe you? And I'm going to owe you this balance in pounds, right? He's like, all right, you owed me, this much in pounds, but, I'll take it in Bitcoin. I'm like, that's perfect. Like, now we have this monetary good that we would settle in that's pretty much good in both our jurisdictions.
Did you have any at this point?
Yeah. At this point, I was pretty locked in.
And you're pretty locked in now, so...
Not as much. I mean, I did go boating in Zakynthos. I lost a couple cold cards off the back of the bus. I mean, off the back of the boat. But
well, we tell you freaks, don't go boating with your cold cards. It's dangerous. We've known too many to have lost them. I'm sorry. Thank you for your service to deflation.
I do what I can.
Well, let's talk about Zeus, dude. So what is Zeus? Why did you decide to build it? Was it a problem you were solving for yourself? Was it a problem you solved that the market had that needed to be solved? Or you just fucking around and it turned into something?
Yeah, it's a number of things. So I had started my Lightning journey. I did a couple transactions with Eclair on mobile at first and went and bought some stuff from Blockstream. And then as I dove a little deeper into it, I started using Zap. And Zap is incredible. Zap really sort of paved the way for Zeus in a lot of ways. But yeah, I started contributing to Zap, and I put in some error utils, and I started getting really excited about like all the possibilities of how the user can interact with Lightning. And from there, I went and I made my own node with a Raspberry Pi. I followed the Raspberry Bolt guide first, before doing Raspberry Blitz. And, I had this great node. I could use it from home, on my laptop. But it sort of defeated the purpose of Lightning. Like, you have instant transactions, low fees. It's perfect for making transactions out in the wild. So I sort of evaluated the other apps that were out there, and I sort of saw that they didn't really suit my needs. And then I went and I talked with Jack briefly on the Zap Slack, and I ran the idea past him, and he was sort of more leaning towards having a native app written completely in Java as far as Android goes, and I was sort of leaning towards using this new solution called React Native. So a little background about myself. I've been working in cybersecurity the past 5.5 years or so. I work at this firm called IronNet, and we do like cybersecurity for big firms, everything from like energy companies to hedge funds, banks, really you name it. And I've been working as an engineer there. I've been working on the product. Last year's been systems programming, but before that it was like 4.5 years of front-end engineering. And I've really come to like this front-end framework called React from Facebook. And I had heard about this framework that they had for developing apps on mobile. And I just thought this would be a great idea for getting my hands wet with it and getting my hands dirty with it and trying it out, seeing what it was all about, and trying to transform some of my web design and web development skills over to a mobile platform. And I just started trying to connect to my node, doing basic stuff, learning the ZeusLN API. And I slowly built it up until I had a fully functioning app that, had QR scanners. You connect to your node. You can go and make transactions on-chain and off-chain through LN. You can manage channels. You could open private channels. And if you're on Android, you can connect to the whole thing over Tor, which is a great feature, I think, as far as privacy and security goes.
What were some of like the biggest things you learned while building it? Or like the biggest hurdles, things that assumptions you had before you went in that were sort of confronted as you were building, stuff like that?
I learned a whole bunch about NPM dependencies for JavaScript products and how many of them actually have proprietary code in them. So part of the challenge I set off for myself to do with Zeus was to support this lesser known app store. It's called F-Droid, and it's only for Android. But they do a couple of very interesting things. They do these, they have a format for reproducible builds, which means everything that gets submitted to the store must be able to, be compiled and recreated in this specific format. And then rule number 2 is that there can't be any proprietary code. So, part of the challenge was working with the QR scanner and making sure the camera aspect of the app worked correctly, because the leading React Native library had all these proprietary dependencies from Google. So we've had to be sort of crafty to work around it and use a lesser known one. So that's been a huge challenge. There's also been a challenge in sort of setting up this open source community where people are contributing back and submitting PRs and submitting issues. This is really my first big open source project, so I knew there would be a big learning curve there, but now we've got so many people hanging out in our Telegram group, giving us feedback, coming up with ideas, saying they want to tackle X, Y, or Z next, creating forks, and it's just awesome.
What was the process of people flooding into the project like? Was it one dude at first?
It's just very, very slow and stagnant at first, but with each day that passes, especially when you're actively working on stuff too, and people are like, oh, some stuff's going on, let's see what's going on with this new release or whatever. It gets sort of overwhelming at times. I think it's going to get a little more overwhelming, so I'm trying to just get more contributors on board and see who's interested and see if anyone's going to step up and take up some new roles to add some new features to this thing. But I'm just trying to get more people to look at the code, more people to just try it out and see what we're offering and see what we could build on top of this. I think it has a lot of potential.
So what are the things that worry you most about the app right now? What features do you want to add?
So first of all, I want to make this the best app for power users, starting, at first at least. Zeus, there's no built-in neutrino client. You're not running LND on your phone. You're connecting remotely. So this is for people who are serious about having, an LND node running 24/7, who really want to be part of the ecosystem, dealing with a lot of channels, and managing them. So some things I want to do, I want to have a display of, what your fees are collected for routing. I want to expand support for other implementations of Lightning other than LND. Looks like the first one we're going to do is C Lightning REST, which Salby from Ride the Lightning has put together. It looks very promising. I'm going to be implementing that in the coming weeks. And then from that, I just want better channel management tools, like maybe get some interaction with Lightning Loop so that you're able to balance your channels, or sends from Lightning to on-chain and vice versa. And just, just work from there.
The name is fucking dope. This industry we have, they always take Bitcoin terms, blockchain, the Lightning app, Sats app. But Zeus, fucking clutch. You got the Lightning reference there. You got the Greek reference. It's a catchy name.
Capture it all in one.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah. It just seemed like a no-brainer to me. Sorry if I stepped on Zap's toes with the Z and a single...
I don't think Zap cares that much.
Zap's another good name. I like that name too.
Yeah.
There's so many good Lightning related names you can choose.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on Lightning right now as a network? It's something we were talking about on RHR. Obviously, the big recent bug that could have trained everybody's channels. Definitely not a good look. Channel management is something I consider myself more technical than your average user, but not. It could potentially become a power user. It would take me a lot of work, and I'd rather not do that work. So channel management, shit like that for me is arduous. I do it, but it's fuck, I gotta do some channel management now. Do you see that improving? Do you think Lightning has a chance to be the successful network that we think it can become? Do you think it has any?
It absolutely has that potential to become the network we hope it can be, but it could also easily fail in a lot of ways. I think there are a lot of promising things that are happening right now, like We're getting a lot of alternate implementations. We're getting all these different versions of apps that all, sort of bring something different to the table. And say something like Bottle Pay is very different from Zeus, which is very different from Lightning Labs' internal app. And it's cool to see things being taken from different perspectives and from different lenses, but we're all still so early. I think that that exploit that we saw recently with LND, I think Sea Lightning had some issues too. Where
all three had them.
Yeah, I think that's testament to how early we are, but it's certainly not the last of it. We're gonna have a couple more nasty things like that, but at least you could say that we have incredible coordination across all these teams, that they were able to handle it so well. Stagger the information so it didn't get exploited too badly, and got patched right up.
Yeah, so you think that was a good handling of that?
I think they handled it phenomenally, to be honest. And these things are going to happen. We need to stay really humble about this thing. Like, obviously, in the last year, the development's been incredible, and it has so much promise. But there's still going to be a lot of hurdles. We're going to see more bugs like this, but we also have these issues with liquidity incoming and outgoing. That's pretty huge too. And, for someone using Zeus who has their own nodes set up, it might not be so big of an issue because they're doing CLI stuff. They're sort of going through the documentation, sort of learning how it all works to really make it all plug in together. But I think we're going to have some problems, or there are some problems rather, dealing with more casual users and trying to convey to them what these channels mean, what the limits of having different amounts of liquidity are. That's why I'm sort of very impressed with Breeze's approach, where they give you some incoming liquidity to help alleviate that process. I think you're going to see more people making some investments like that, seeding.
It's not really scalable, right?
It's not scalable. That's the real kicker.
It's like a nice little stopgap.
Bootstrap.
Yeah, stopgap bootstrap. And then you look at someone like, see, this is why I hate the name of their wallet. Like Lightning Labs' wallet, in-house wallet or whatever, the Lightning wallet. They just abstract the channels away from you completely. You don't get any inbound liquidity, but I guess Breeze never shows you any channel management either. Both of them show you no channel management. With Breeze, it opens an outbound to their node, and with Lightning Labs' wallet, they do the auto select. What is it called? Autopilot.
Autopilot.
Autopilot. You're right.
And it just picks some random big node and just opens the channel to it, but it never shows you. And it actually defaults to dollars. It doesn't even show you sats or anything.
You can switch it to sats.
You just click the button, but when you first load it up, it's dollars and there's no channels shown to you at all.
Yeah, definitely a different approach from what we're trying to do in Zeus.
What how weird do you think Lightning can get? Like, what are the weirdest use cases that maybe people aren't talking about that maybe you're thinking about, if any? I don't want to put you on the spot there.
Well, certainly that's what I really like to see. Like, making the apps and the wallets, it's really cool, but I want to see the very interesting implementations of Lightning. And I know this is it's been said before, but I really want to see streaming services done with Lightning, where you're paying by how much of a show or song or an album you listen to. I think something like that could potentially be very interesting. Breaking up your bill by how much you actually consume, instead of having these media conglomerates right now charging you a monthly fee and then banking that you're gonna consume less than that. You know what I mean?
Well, that's Costco's model, right? They don't make any of their money on the retail sales. It's on the subscription to the Costco card. But no, I agree, and that's something we had just talked about in Rabbit Hole Recap. I want to see these publishers put up content paywalls. It's the first little use case. It's a little Trojan horse. This is interesting, enables cool things, and then I think I saw Stop into Crypt talking about using it to create a VPN service or something like that in the future.
Which gaming is going to be the dark horse, international gaming.
Yeah, I think so too, because that's how you get the youth. So people like, Bitcoin Rabbi who are like, all right, we need to not sell the older generation of gold bugs or the current generation per se, but, the people who are going to be around for, this transformation.
And maybe our site is not the best site as an example for this, but maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe people are more abreast to use Lightning on our site than other services because we advertise that they should go try it out. But again, I just dropped the stat on our RHR. 87% of the total transactions that have come through our TFTC.io node have been Lightning Network transactions. 13% have been on-chain, but only 9% of the value we've received has been Lightning. So it's people experimenting with microtransactions, and people are using Bitcoin via Lightning.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think part of it is curiosity and people, just trying it out, trying the new tech out and getting more familiar with it. But I think there's also a good chunk of Bitcoiners who understand what added privacy protections they get by using LN.
This is a good point because I got shit on Twitter yesterday for saying that Lightning does increase privacy. How does it do it? Does it do it? And what would be the FUD for it not providing more privacy?
Well, you can monitor nodes to a certain extent, but I think things get really tricky on that front once you have a couple of private channels in the mix. Like if you have this node and you're suddenly blind to a couple of inputs, if the transactions that are being routed out through those channels, you're sort of blind to be honest. And to surveil that sort of stuff, you need to go in much deeper, and the cost of that gets pretty absurd, at least at scale.
What would it be like?
Well, you have to it requires active monitoring because nothing's on chain. So you have to you have to have a large number of routing nodes, or at least complicit routing nodes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you got to sort of eclipse the network in a way, or
you gotta stake Bitcoin. You have to take Bitcoin and lock it up in channels and have all of these high performant routing nodes that are getting a ton of traffic.
Yeah, either that or...
So you have to support the system to attack the privacy, right?
Yep. From the external internet, absolutely.
Well, what is that? What if... So that's another thing. A lot of people who don't understand private channels have been reporting that channel numbers have been going down, node counts have been going down, capacity has been going down, but not taking into consideration private channels. Do you see a future in which most channels are private? That would make sense to me, right?
Absolutely. I think we're going to hit a point at which the majority of channels are private. I think that's going to come sooner than later. I think software is mostly going to be, determining that. We're really proud to offer up that option to make your channel private on creation in Zeus, and that's something I definitely prioritize getting in there.
What does that mean for measuring the activity on the network? How would you ever know? Just endpoints?
It's that's the
would
catch.
Everybody have to self-report?
Well, I guess there are ways to make estimates, but at the end of the day, they're just going to be that estimate. And unfortunately, we've gotten so used to having this completely transparent system on layer one with the blockchain. People are just used to that. They were hoping that, oh man, we can get some awesome metrics out of this L2 stuff too, and that's not the case at all, really. You could sort of get some idea of what's going on in the network by what's available to you to see, but
you have a big node and then you extrapolate. That's what Ellen Big's trying to do. He's been posting stats and then he extrapolates it based across the network.
So where do you guys stand with that guy? Do you think he's a bad actor?
Well, in the beginning we did.
We think he's a good guy.
I think he's just a Bitcoiner.
He just got in early. He's got all these coins. He wants to test out the new thing.
He did an interview. It was an interesting interview. He
With who?
Was it?
It was a written interview.
Was it?
It might have been with Bitcoin Magazine.
Cool.
And he said he runs the IT for this large company, and they just had all these extra servers, and he's a Bitcoiner, and he just
ripping.
That's why they're all in the same
server farms.
Yeah, they're all in the same
Bethesda
areas.
and Virginia, right?
Yeah. And the other, so all the consumer wallets are all making the move to, the model is you run your Light node. You're not a routing node. You run your Lightning wallet. It's a Light node. You open one or two big private channels to a large node, and then you like loop out or something. And then you have inbound liquidity. So like they're all defaulting to private channels. With routing nodes, you can route someone's payment through a private channel. So, but it could be used in ways where like two big routing nodes have a big private channel with each other.
Would that be like
right?
a Tor relay node where it has to like, where the traffic has to go through that node?
I'm correct in that, right? You can route through a private channel.
I think you can actually.
Like if you're sending a payment, I can't be a hop in between because you don't know my private channel exists.
You don't know, but the network might, right?
How would the network know it's a private channel? That's the whole point.
Yeah, I got to defer on this. We should really.
I'm like 98%
Well,
sure.
let's pivot to this. Like what I'm worried about is like there a way like if we move most of the shit to private channels that
That's
like,
what I'm saying. I don't think you can.
Could it be gamed? Could it be bastardized in a way? Like could you have like that word, that big rehypothecation word?
No, I mean, yeah, to be honest, if you're really going to be doing damage on this network, you really need to stake a lot of Bitcoin to begin with, which is, sort of the beauty of it.
Yeah, you can never make Bitcoin out of thin air anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's locked Bitcoin.
Yeah, but would you be able to like spoof valid invoices on a private channel? I don't know. I'm just like.
Well, with
I'm
the
just
last exploit we just saw, you could have
That's
spoofed
exactly
some
what it
Bitcoin.
was. Yeah.
It would have been the perfect.
But that only
exploit
hurts
for-
people on Lightning. It doesn't hurt anyone on the main chain. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, of course, and that's part of the beauty of the design. Like you can hedge appropriately. Like, I mean, you guys are a little crazy with your note, or the thief is the thief is a little.
Yeah, take it easy out there, thief.
I think it's one of the Greek Bitcoiners.
It might be. Those guys are nefarious, man. Listen, they're already scoping out a location for the Citadel.
There you go.
Well, let's talk about this. Not a big Citadel fan here, but I
Ridiculous.
I will appease the talk of Greek citadels. Where is it going to be?
Oh well, we'll take that one off the air.
Okay.
We're gonna keep their location secret for now.
That's good. That was bad OPSEC. That was a test. That was a test. It was a test.
You can't tell where your planned Citadel is. You have to prepare.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't have like a bidding war with
Oh, they're Bitcoiners. Yeah, that's true. Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. So, like, do you think we win? Like, let's just get heady here. Like, do you think Bitcoin is successful? Like, are you in this for freedom? Do you think the world needs Bitcoin right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do we win? Nothing's written in stone, Marty. Like, we could fuck this thing up so many different ways, but each day that we have developers looking at the code and building some solutions on top of it, whether it be through new signature schemes or doing stuff on L2, it becomes just a little bit harder for that to be fucked up. But we still have a long way to go as far as, the tools and the software Bitcoiners are using, as well as, education and, word of mouth and adoption, really.
Well, let's focus on education there. Like, you obviously have a drive to educate people with these workshops, the two of you across from me right now. Do you think those are, like, high leverage activities? Meeting people in person, walking them through this stuff? What is the best way to educate?
I think there's just incredible value just being able to network with these people, for us to just build out our own personal sort of local communities. I mean, education is crucial, and it needs to be, part of this journey in getting Bitcoin to where we want it. But, doing these workshops one off at a time, it doesn't really scale really to the millions of people we need to, really. But if you, alongside your workshops, put out all these other materials, like we have, if you put out video, written content, guides, I think that in conjunction with workshops can go a long way, I think.
Yeah, we're like Johnny Appleseeds planting seeds all over the minds of potential Bitcoiners, pre-coiners now, potential Bitcoiners in the future. And it's the local network is very important. That's actually something that Justin Moon mentioned last night the fact that like he was down in Austin and just started a meetup because he wanted to meet Bitcoiners and like-minded people, and like he's developed a great network just through that. But I've said this many times on this podcast, we are completely spoiled in this city with the amount of talented people working on Bitcoin and thinking about Bitcoin and working on Bitcoin, you being one of them. That's like how we met through the New York scene.
Yeah, I mean, we're incredibly spoiled with. I think the New York scene might be the best in the world for. I mean, despite having awful things in New York State like the bit license. Fuck you, Ben Lawsky.
Don't speak that way about a Ripple board member.
Hey. Ben's just part of the revolving door, all right? You can't fault him, all right?
Yeah, everyone's self-interested at the end of the day, I guess.
How much did that piss you off? Let's expand on this. Go deeper into Ben Lawsky. You seem like this person in particular perturbs you.
Yeah, let's just say I, actively tried to see what the cost of, spinning Bitcoin-related service up in New York, and it was just a little. It's really steep. It's crazy. You got to drop at least
$500,000, right?
It's so fucked up. The bit license is so fucked up. And then he joined the Ripple board afterwards, motherfucker. It says he's protecting consumers with the bit license.
Yeah, I think like the $500,000 mark is like really conservative because that's just the fees for processing everything. But like honestly, you got to have the capital to back it up in case you lose funds. You got to have all these legal fees you're going to be paying. It's going to be upwards of $2 million. Tell me what kid in their bedroom is going to be able to scrap together $2 million to start up a Bitcoin startup in New York State. It's not going to happen.
And then you can't compete with the guys who like let's say you're trying to create like the best online arcade that there is and you accept Bitcoin. Like you can't compete with someone launching it somewhere else because you have to KYC people for like $5 transactions. You have all this regulatory burden on top.
We had to squash a game that DJ wanted to build, a stacking sats game, and I was like, no, I'm not sending anybody money or like creating any quasi gambling thing on our website while we're a New York State company.
Yeah, I mean around the bit license I almost started something like that, and then the bit license passed and I was like, nah, I'm just gonna stick with my fiat job for a while.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
But yeah, the New York Bitcoin community is rivaled maybe only by a few communities in the world. And props to the guys at BitDevs and Pierre for really nurturing that. And now we're losing Pierre to Austin. So we all in New York need to step up our game and keep nurturing it.
Absolutely.
Austin might take the #1 spot once he moves down there. Powerful Austin Bitcoin community.
Well, I'll never admit it.
I know the noted Megazord is forming. Put those guys in the same city, it's going to get dangerous. So
they'll have a Citadel in a few years' time.
That's the key. We're just all building out our Citadel networks now.
I'm really looking forward to Bitstein's little ranch where he's going to have his bluegrass band or his big brass band playing to his cattle. It's going to be incredible. I'm really looking forward to what those two guys do.
We need to bring back grazing cattle, freaks. It is an actionable thing we can do to put more oxygen in the atmosphere. Cows, they graze, they eat grass, they help prevent monoculture. Then they move on, and then they do that somewhere else, and more grass comes. And at the end of a couple grazing periods, you have some more oxygen in the world. No factory farming. That was my grazing cattle tangent there.
I'm totally with you, Marty.
All right. I had one drink of this moonshine. It's hit me already.
It'll do it to you, especially if you're not used to it. I was like drinking this stuff pretty much every day at lunch when we were on the island of Zakynthos. And then, oh man, I got into a real good groove just walking out from the restaurant onto the beach and passing out.
What's the Greek day like?
Oh man, well let me tell you, you'll wake up at 10, get to work 11:30, run the shop till like 2 p.m. Then you have a little afternoon siesta, sort of Spanish style, till like 3:30, 4. It depends. Everyone's got their own real thing going on, but
I fucking love that lifestyle. When I did like 15 days in Spain a couple of years ago. I didn't want to leave by the end. But I also thought I was having a heart attack because I was eating so many fatty meats and cheese and bread and smoking a shit ton of cigarettes. Uncle Marty gets very cigarette trigger happy when he goes to Europe.
Yeah, it's crazy over there. It's like, less than €4 a pack? Yeah, thank God I'm not smoking anymore. I would really have gone through a couple packs in Greece for sure.
You know what? A European dart never killed anybody. You know, it's probably killed a couple million, but we'll just gloss over that. So what else do you want to talk about? Like, what's exciting you outside of Lightning right now? Are you worried about anything at the protocol level of Bitcoin? Are you excited for the prospect of BIP Taproot or Schnorr and all that shit?
Yeah, Taproot and Schnorr, they just all have so much promise. You know, I'm really just eager to see that stuff get fleshed out in the next couple of years. But, you know, alas, we got to stay patient. You know, these are things that you don't want to add in haphazardly. There's steps to it. Yeah, it's there's so much going on the protocol level. I mean, as we go on, it feels like, you know, things are sort of stagnate, things sort of like calcify, like, but there's still like amazing innovations coming on. Like,
that's what we were saying. Like, we had the fork wars to fight about, and we had the ICOs to shit on, and it feels like we're in this like weird lull where like nobody has anything to fight about, and we're like, what the hell's going on?
We're just going at each other because we were just bored.
Yeah, it's like, come on, guys. At the end of the day, we're all working towards the same thing, you know. Like,
there'll be another real thing to talk about soon enough. We just got to tread water until then.
What do you think it is? Do you know what it is?
No, I'm just saying. It's just anybody's guess. I don't know what it is. What I'm like talking to AXA Bilderberg, and they let me know ahead of time.
I don't know. You just gave me a weird look. Like I know some shit's about to go down.
I mean, I think. Yeah, I mean, it should be interesting. I'm not sure. It always catches you off guard, I think. I mean, I guess the block size didn't. That, like, took a while and boiled over, and that was, like, kind of known.
Yeah, and some child porn
but,
FUD
But
this
the
week.
ICO shit came out of nowhere.
oh, yeah, that was...
Okay, so based on, like...
Did it come out of nowhere?
I think so. But did you think, like, you thought Ethereum was going to hit 1,500 and, like, Neo was going to go wherever Neo went, and XRP was going to hit, like, 3, and...
No, I didn't think that was going to happen.
Like, that CNBC was going to be, like, talking about, like, Digibyte and shit. I don't know.
You guys are excited for Chainlink to $1,000?
Yeah,
What the fuck was Chainlink? Was that like a 4chan thing?
It just launched, right?
I think it was around since last year.
Is it like a meme blockchain or something like that?
No, it's not a meme blockchain. They're trying to solve the Oracle problem, and it's ERC-667 token, variation on ERC-20. I'm not going to say anything mean about Chainlink. I'm going to say that it's very, very difficult to solve the Oracle problem that all these people are trying to solve, because at the end of the road, no matter how brilliant your software setup is or how brilliant you think the incentives are, you're going to have to trust someone at the end of the day, because this isn't, you know, data derived from the blockchain or values within that system. This is it's external.
Is it a solvable problem? I don't think it's a solvable problem.
No, I don't think it's solvable. I mean, best of luck to them.
This is what Augur tried to solve.
Yeah.
Right. Just for the freaks out there.
Yeah, it's very similar to Augur.
Augur in particular, their markets got way fucked up immediately. Like, you had people gaming their markets pretty heavily in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And this is like the same issue that MakerDAO has, right? Like the Oracle problem is that if your smart contract or whatever relies on an outside data source that can't be found on the chain, then you need someone to report that data.
Yeah, so a good example is sports. Like, if you have somebody betting on sports and you need the final score of the game to execute the bet, you have an Oracle. You have ESPN, CNN, or not CNN, who else keeps scores? Fox Sports, whoever. They're Yahoo. They're oracles, and they put up the final score. So you need something like that to put the final score into these markets to.
Right.
Yeah.
So the issue is finding one that's like actually trust minimized, where you don't have like a third party that you have to trust.
The biggest problem, like these systems can, these systems that claim to be solving the Oracle problem. That's my biggest worry about these systems, is that they can grow to such an extent and they're successful for an extended period of time because the incentive to attack them is not there yet. But once you get a bunch of money onto these systems, and it is worthwhile to attack these oracles, that's when you'll see them finally getting attacked, right? And it'll be too late at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with these oracles, you don't know when they could potentially go rogue, they could do a sort of exit scam like thing, like a bad darknet seller, where they're like, okay, yeah, we've been giving you the score of the Knicks game or whatever the hell, honestly and accurately for the last 3 years, but maybe we change the results on the day we know the result's going to be fixed a certain way, and we run away with a buttload of money.
Yeah.
Or just even, it doesn't even have to be malicious. Like imagine if like the MakerDAO oracles just reported the ETH price incorrectly for like a sustained period of time, like by accident. Like there could just be
Just have margin calls for no reason.
Yeah, it could just be because you're still the key with reducing third party risk isn't just the third party being malicious, right? It's also the third party being negligent, not even.
Yeah, totally. That's always a risk.
So I have a good question for you. If you were a major world government and you were trying to kill Bitcoin, how would you do it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mr.
so
security researcher.
Right? Seems like a good fit.
Yeah, let's really pop on the tinfoil hats for this one, boys. What do you think?
And my tinfoil hat is on.
If you're a government official, please turn off the podcast now. Thank you.
I know you're all listening. Trump, turn it off.
Yeah, I know Barron's working with the computers.
Barron's a big fan.
Okay, so the biggest way for... Well, the thing is, there'd be so much coordination involved, but let me keep it simple. My biggest concern right now is the amount of backdoors in commercial chips right now. From Intel management engine to, what's it called? The Rock 64 chips have like a version of it, and the Raspberries and AMD chips. They all can be backdoored, with these sort of systems. Like management engine, pretty much the idea behind it is you have like a fleet of Intel computers, and you want to roll out configuration change to it or software update to the whole fleet at once. So the chip manufacturers have built in this. Essentially a back door in which you can gain complete access of the computer. So, what percent of Bitcoin nodes are running on open hardware? Something like a complete open alternative like Open Power that Luke Dasher has been plugging a bit. Not many. I think it's definitely less than 1%.
It's like 50 people, right?
Yeah, it's like 50 people.
I was actually, I met Andrew DeSantis a couple years ago, and it was before Lightning was launched, and we were talking about, and his biggest fear was that, is that like we all go to Lightning, and every hardware device and chip is backdoorable, and you have the situation where a lot of the economic activity moves to Lightning, and then, again, going back to incentives to attack a network, that creates the incentive to finally backdoor these systems.
Yeah, but while this is a huge concern of mine, the actual difficulties in executing something
exactly.
like this is ridiculous.
What are the logistics that have to happen to attack these systems in this way?
First of all, at what scale are we doing it? Are we attacking them all at once, or are we attacking the tens of thousands of Bitcoin nodes all at once? Is there?
I don't know. Is that possible?
We're trying to kill Bitcoin here.
Yeah.
So if you just take down a couple nodes, you're not killing Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, from a technical perspective, it is.
And is taking down all the nodes killing Bitcoin anyway? Because cold storage would still be fine.
Yeah, so,
everyone would still have a copy of the most recent blockchain, right?
That's true. You can kill all of them. You
would have to kill every single one.
Right. So, really from a more practical standpoint, an attack you want to do would probably be ideological. It'd probably be something in the form of BCH or BSV. And then that combined with, the sort of the FUD we saw the last few days where, child pornographers are using Bitcoin, and then driving that home despite, these arrests happening mostly a year ago.
Did they happen a year ago? They just announced it?
Yep.
And
one fucked up.
Again, a fact that we should reiterate, we said it on Rabbit Hole Recap tonight. You said there was $300,000 over 3 years.
Yeah, and there's like 2 billion in daily transactions a day.
Sheesh.
For just Bitcoin in general. And then the site only had 300K over 3 years worth of Bitcoin. So like, let's not paint all Bitcoiners.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a stupid argument because I think most people can see past the guys like, you think Bitcoin's the preferred currency of child pornographers?
But I think this is gonna it's gonna be reoccurring. Like,
yeah, I mean,
we're gonna have terrorist attacks that are financed by Bitcoin and stuff, or they don't even have to be financed by Bitcoin. They just have to say they're financed by Bitcoin.
Didn't that just happen in Germany?
Yeah.
Were they using Bitcoin and 3D printed guns?
Like, were they really?
Yeah, the synagogue shooter.
Did he use Bitcoin?
He got a donation from someone in Bitcoin. God, I don't know if he used it.
They couldn't use Litecoin or something.
I know, right? Like, come on, dude.
Well, it's crazy. The future is going to get weird. And Matt, I know we're here interviewing Evan, but I want to bring up the tweet that you tweeted out the other day about the future will be built on open software and hardware, right?
Unprintable hardware. No, printable hardware and unprintable money.
Yes. Like the 3D printing stuff. It's scary, but it's here. It's not going away. Like.
Yeah, unfortunately,
the
toothpaste is out of the tube on that one.
What do you see proliferating from that? Are you into 3D printing at all? Does that fascinate you, the hardware aspect of it, or?
Oh, absolutely. I haven't really dove into it too deeply. I certainly want a 3D printer. I feel like it's becoming more feasible every year as the cost of getting one of these good ones really comes out.
What's a good printer going for right now?
It used to obsolete so quickly. I was like, I'm very proud of my low time preference in that particular industry, because I came so close over the last like 4 years to buying one over and over again, and just every time I was like, I'm gonna wait till next year.
Yeah, you're gonna be the dude buying a $50,000 big screen TV.
Dude, next bull run, my 3D printer is gonna be fucking legit.
Well, I'm gonna come over and test that out. I gotta. But yeah, it's sort of like with ASICs, like a lot of innovation at first, sort of tampers off. Yeah, I don't know. With the 3D printing stuff, the gun stuff is really scary. I'd really like to see someone focus on the other end of it. Maybe do some, 3D printed vests or defense tools. I mean, if all
guns are defense tools.
That's true too. But I would like to see someone do like focus on Kevlar or other sort of devices in that realm, like maybe 3D printed drones or tools like that.
Gonna have that, especially if you include like CNC, like metal cutting.
Yeah.
Programmatic metal cutting.
Yeah, that's a whole other beast, really. The CNC stuff versus like that plastic printing. We kind of just
group that into 3D printing now.
Yeah, I know. People sort of lump it together.
Yeah, no, it's fucking fascinating. I want a 3D printer. I just want to print like regular household shit. I just think it'd be fun.
You could print TFTC swag.
We can. We do need more swag, but it's like
he has more swag than us. His humble little app.
Yeah.
My stickers, yeah.
How you out swagging us, bro?
The stickers are dope.
Yeah, I got a die cut of the logo. Oh man, the logo is great. I paid $5 for it on Fiverr.
You didn't pay with Bitcoin?
No, unfortunately not.
Questionable.
Nah,
Are you really in this to win it, dude?
Listen, I mean, I guess my guy in Thailand.
There's a new Bitcoin site. I was talking to someone about it. That was
like Fiverr.
It's like Fiverr, but with Bitcoin, with Lightning specifically. I'm looking it up.
You work for a security firm. What are like the weirdest attacks or like the attacks that you're protecting your clients against from? What are the most common ones? Are you allowed to talk about it or?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Do they vary a lot, or are you guys securing one specific?
Oh, there's total variance, and our system is designed to catch variation of attacks. So I would say like the most common thing you're going to see is like a spear phishing. The easiest way, least technical, least cost, is to just send fake emails to the organization and see what you could whittle up from there. Absolutely, you don't have to spend money on a 0 day that's going to cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and you're just trying to exploit fallible humans.
So you're saying you can buy 0 days on the black market?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's common. I didn't know that. I thought it was just people found them and exploited them.
Well, I mean, you're not going to go on like tour and like go to 0 day exploits dot blah 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 dot onion, but Yeah, there's totally security researchers out there that have 0 days for all sorts of platforms and are willing to sell them to the highest bidding, private security company or government or just whoever's willing to pay the most.
What's that underground like? Like,
It's like kind of in the open. It's like one of the coolest things about it is that you can kind of extrapolate how secure a platform is, but like how much people are willing to pay for a 0 day. Right? Would you say that?
the more, the less secure.
The more expensive, the more secure.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because you can't get in. If there's like a bunch of ways to get into a platform, then you're not going to pay top dollar for it,
That
right?
makes sense.
Yeah, so I guess the most popular point around this lately was Android versus iOS as far as the cost of 0 days has gone, and I feel like
It flipped, right?
it flipped from iOS being the most expensive to Android being the most
For
expensive.
the first time ever.
And the reasoning
Yeah.
behind a lot of that is that Android has so many different variations on their devices. All the manufacturers have different nuances in their software and their hardware. To have there's no real one-size-fits-all solution. Your hack is going to be targeted to like a certain kind of phone. Whereas with iOS and iPhone, it might be possible, because they're all using the same exact version of the software, more or less, to buy
them all
one
at once.
exploit and hit an iPad, iPhone from all these different generations all at once.
Yeah, the fappening. You just hit them all at once.
Oh man.
Well, the fappening was spear phishing, right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, don't hold me to that 100%, but I think it was spear phishing. Yeah.
And fuck, I had a question. What was I gonna say?
But that guy's in jail. How many years did he get?
I don't know.
I think it's like 15 years.
He did something. How did he get caught again?
Wasn't he taunting them or something? Like that?
No, I feel like he was trying to blackmail and do a ransom action like
I
that.
remember what I was gonna ask. Is this an argument for like multiple implementations? Like, can this equate to like Bitcoin development and stuff like that?
Oh, certainly. I mean, there's so many benefits you get by multiple implementations. I mean, perhaps you'd have a better product if you just had one implementation and all the devs were working on that, but then it's just not practical. People with different ideas are going to implement things in different ways. And, I really think it's generally a net benefit to have these different options. Like let's say there's an exploit for one of the implementations and all those nodes get knocked down. Well, at least you have 7 other implementations and all of those nodes stay up and maintain the network. And yeah, I understand the arguments against it. Like,
Let's go through them. What are they?
so you have more implementations, you have less eyes in the same place, so your eyes are more decentralized, looking at different stuff. That means the code is going to be a little less thorough, more chance for exploits, less cohesion. You're going to have a lot of errors where the implementations are incompatible because stuff happens like that. But generally speaking, I largely think that diversity is good in this space, and the benefits outweigh the cons.
You would say it's different for layer 1 and layer 2, right? Because layer 1, the main issue with multiple implementations is consensus issues, right? And we don't have that issue with Lightning as much.
Yeah, it's a different animal altogether, I would say.
Yeah.
And there's different tolerances for it at different levels on the stack, for sure.
It's like if we had it basically 50-50 between 2 implementations on layer 1, and they had a consensus split, like which is the true side?
That's an interesting point. No, that's a good thing. Like, is there? Am I going to use this term correct? I don't think so. So I'm not going to use it. Is there like a distribution in which like Core has like 70%, LibBitcoin has 10%, and knots and whatever down from there make up the rest? Is that sufficient?
Yeah, but then what happens if Core goes one way and LibBitcoin and knots goes the other? So it goes 30-70. Whose fault was the consensus split?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. But, and then like this is what Eric Bosco said, like you can't, and what you were alluding to earlier, people are going to have different ideas, they're going to do it. So how having that in mind, that no matter what you may argue for, which would be, a lot of people would argue for a single implementation, people are it's open source software and they're able to do it? It's a good question.
Yeah, that's one of the funny things about dealing in this space and dealing with software and OSS, you know. You don't have a say in the matter, you know. Like, how many times was Bitcoin Core forked and turned to shit, and Satoshi didn't have any say in the matter? So, you know, similarly, I mean, you know, obviously it's a much smaller project. You know, the equivalent of it is not quite the same, but you know, I'm dealing with some people talking to me about forking Zeus, and what do you feel about that? It's like, listen, man, I really have no say in the matter. If you want to do it, you can do it, and if I think it's good at the end of the day and I like it, I'll promote it. Sure, why not? Or if it's really good, I'm gonna refactor it and push it upstream to Zeus, and you can't stop that either. So,
Well, that's the thing. Like, what is a good amount of ego in this space, right? Like, how, like, obviously we all want to get ours, right? You want to fucking build a dope app that everybody fucking uses. We want to build a dope podcast and newsletter that everybody listens to and reads. But at the end, again, it's a meritocracy, and I think about this often. Like, is there a point at which, like, somebody's better than me? Do I just not drop out, but, like, acknowledge it? Yeah. I'm a little drunk off the moonshine right now.
No, first of all, you know, we just got to stay humble. This is going to be a long journey. It's going to take decades. Absolutely, right? But
We're already a decade in. My life I've spent not a decade, but a good chunk of one. Decades, yeah. Long run, baby.
long run, we're all of us here are definitely in for it, and we know what we're getting ourselves into. But, you know, as far as saying, like, who's better than, you know, another, like, okay, personally, I think TFTC is the best podcast in the universe.
Well, thank you, sir.
You know, it's very, very honored and, you know, privileged to be on here. But, you know, by what metrics, you know? In some other metric, you might not be so good. And a different podcast, you know, might also be good to listen to, too. It doesn't have to be a winner wins all thing.
No, exactly. No,
except for in money.
No, well, that's the thing that Safe and I were talking about in the interview that aired today is value is subjective, right? Like, people like different things in different ways.
It's all in the eyes of the observer.
And that's actually what we're trying to do with Bitcoin, right? Is like give people the ability to imbue their subjective value and what they want. And the best way to do that is to provide an apolitical, neutral money that anybody can use to put forward their values, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, we all like the principles underlying Bitcoin at the end of the day, but if we just, you know, decreed by fiat, let's say, you know, Marty got declared president and we forced everyone to use Bitcoin, that wouldn't be so cool, really. If we just forced people into it, that people couldn't voluntarily associate with Bitcoin, that would be pretty lame in my eyes. I think that's part of the beautiful thing about it. Like, we don't choose who our family is. We don't choose which country we're born in. And, you know, prior to this thing, we didn't choose what our primary form of monetary exchange was. But now we can. You can opt in, and it's all voluntary. And the second that Bitcoin isn't for you or your values change, you can walk away. That's it.
Yeah, and people have walked away.
For now. You can walk away for now.
Yeah, they'll be back.
No, I'm just saying, like, in the future, what other option are you going to have?
Well, that brings up a good discussion about, like, we're Bitcoiners here, we like to shit on shitcoins, but, like, are we hypocritical for shitting on, like, who are we to
yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, as much as I like to slam dunk on things, at the end of the day, like, you know, everyone, well, you know, there's obviously going to be nefarious actors, but generally speaking, people are trying to do the right thing and work towards what they think is right. So, you know, like, when we go and we try to challenge the claims of altcoiners, we got to do so, one, respectfully, and two, you know, with facts.
Yeah, logic has to prevail, right?
Yeah, we can't be saying, oh, you're an asshole, you're dumb shit, whatever. That only will get you so far. But if you're able to outmaneuver your opponent with logic, right?
That's one thing I like seeing you hop into Twitter. I saw you hop into Joe Weisenthal's today.
Joe Weisenthal. Joe is awesome. I think Joe said
at the beefsteak.
we met him at Josh's Beefsteak. Shout out to Josh. Love Josh.
Beefsteak Josh.
He's the man. Also a member of the Citadel. Helped us put together the whole workshop. Without him, it wouldn't have worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge. But Joe Weisenthal showed up. I think Josh invited him, and we got to talk a little briefly. But man, it was great seeing him. He's always got great stuff on Twitter going. He's a
great troll.
He's unbelievable, and he's just like, it's like a stream of salmon. This Twitter, and he's just got this huge net cast out, and I'm like, shit, I got caught in Joe's net again. And it's not my first time at the rodeo, but he knows how to push the right buttons and the right knobs, and he's just a brilliant guy all around. He's got odd lots, and he's awesome on Bloomberg. I have a lot of respect for Joe.
I do as well. I've been a big fan of Joe. His career trajectory, actually, he's somebody who started out writing a newsletter on markets and wound up on Bloomberg, talking about what he was writing about. It's very inspirational in that regard. But then, if you guys haven't checked out the episode with Joe, we recorded way over a year at this point, last summer. It's very good. He's he triggers a lot of Bitcoiners. People get really pissed off at him, but I think once you meet him, you know that he's intentionally trying to troll. And I think today his thread brought up very good points, and I agree with what he said. We need better privacy.
But no, his phrasing, he intentionally chose.
Yes, he's trying to
phrasing.
trigger everybody.
Yeah, it's all by design. But Joe's heart's in the right place.
But
if he doesn't use Bitcoin actively, he will be soon enough.
Joe, I know you're listening. You will submit.
It was funny that he did successfully call out, in the process, he triggered a lot of the more hardcore Bitcoiners. But who he was targeting was our Bitcoiners in suits, our suits division, and he was correct in that, and he basically got them to paint it for him, is that they have to avoid all the controversial shit about Bitcoin and paint it as this really great gold 2.0 settlement network, which it is, but just that, right, and not that the dark money, private money type of thing. And it's just the dirty little secret of our industry. We all know it. We all know that these guys go up on CNBC and ignore that aspect, and they say Bitcoin is perfectly easy to trace or whatever. But then behind closed doors, they're it's important that you can use it privately. Otherwise, it has no value.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he got a good rise out of one of the Winklevi twins because they're running the Gemini.
You see, he tweets a fucking preteen. He's doing you for you, just the letter U.
I'm working on getting him on the pod. All right.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
Better.
There's limited characters on Twitter.
This wouldn't have happened on Facebook.
Yeah.
But not only did he tweet like that with that grammar, he used the number 4 for 4. It just triggered me. But his comment triggered me too. His comment was if you've been to chain analysis, you know that
this is
he's private Bitcoin transactions are a thing of the past. It has nothing to do with what Bitcoin gives value. He was completely off.
Yeah.
That's not true at all.
He wasn't one. There are some our better suits that go out on CNBC and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Matt's getting very passionate right now. It's picking up on the levels.
They know that they're kind of peddling shit a little bit about Bitcoin being completely transparent, but Cameron with that tweet, he doesn't know. He's lost the plot a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is it's nuanced, right? It's pseudonymous, right?
Right.
But it's all about how you interact with it and how you manage your UTXOs at the end of the day, which determine whether your actions on it are really going to end up being anonymous at the end of the day.
But that's really fucking difficult.
Yeah, you can't convey that in a...
So,
have you ever had a UTXO?
Segment?
Sometimes I have a UTXO where I'm just I'm not really positive where this came from, not sure how it got there, what it's for. Are those sats dead to me? Are they worth it to me? Do I try and reclaim this? You're trying to level this in your head, and if you fuck up that leveling process, 6 years down the line, it could be used to link a bunch of things to you, and you're fucked.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be mindful of how much it is, where you potentially got it from, when you got it, how you potentially used it, all these different factors. So, part of it is labeling your UTXOs, which Wasabi does very well.
I like that they make it the default.
Yeah, you have to.
You have no choice. It's
There's-
part of the flow.
Yeah, you can't have
It's
a
a
blank.
receive address.
It's like not in other wallets. It's not a very obvious process either, or it's not very obvious that you should be labeling your UTXOs.
I think I got Casa to do it. I think they're about to do it.
Boss.
But every wallet should have labeling, and I think I actually like Wasabi's that they force you. Like Samurai, for instance, has labeling, but you have to like go into the UTXO menu and label it after the fact. That flow makes a lot of sense to me. What is this receive address for? Type it in, press generate, you got it.
Yeah, it's pretty foolproof there, but I think that there's a lot of confusion still after the fact. Like, okay, I've mixed my all my Bitcoin, and they're all in these little bundles. They're split 0.1 BTC each, right? But then what's the proper procedure for doing it afterwards?
10 million sats.
10 million sats.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue. And that's what Samurai tries to solve with their post-mix tools.
Like Cahoots
Yeah,
and
it's so
whatnot.
nuanced. There's so many... And at the end of the day, it takes so much active thought by the individual, right? By the user. That's the issue.
Yeah, you don't really want to be worrying about this when you're making a transaction at the end of the day. It's like, do I have the money to make the transaction or not?
Well, that's why like a future with something like P2EP like entices me a lot. But apparently there's some drawbacks like with the way you need to construct that transaction. It's not very UX friendly. But if you were to make every transaction a coin join, basically where the recipient has to create an output as well, you mix up. That makes like a lot of sense.
Well, you need them both to be online, right?
Yes, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah.
It's a pretty big drawback.
Yeah. But just definitely a big drawback, but just structurally thinking of a way in which we can achieve like something like that, with not having people not have to be online.
It could work. That could work really well with something like BTC Pay or something.
Yeah.
Right, because you're paying a store. You're online. You're paying.
Right.
They're online because they're running a Lightning node anyway, and they have to serve you an invoice.
Yeah.
But
That makes it-
at the
that
same
makes it-
point, you could just pay them in Lightning.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think? Yeah. So will a lot of this activity be moved to Lightning? Will we have the just settlement transactions on the protocol?
One of the under discussed things about Lightning, paying for something in Lightning, is even if you go through the whole process of not buying your coins through KYC, which is hard as it is, especially at scale, you go through like all the privacy, hygiene, and stuff. One underappreciated thing that people don't realize is when you pay for things in Bitcoin, it can be tied to personal identifiable information.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's a shipping address, whether that's an email address, whether that's an IP address, whether that's some kind of cookies in your browser or whatever, some tracking token.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you pay them, you get change. And that change in most wallets isn't labeled, as we were saying before.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years down the line, you forget what that UTXO is and that it's linked to your identity, and you merge it with other things. With Lightning, there's no change. When you make that transaction, even if that specific transaction is tracked because they have like watching nodes or whatever, that there's no change there. That's just sitting around, just waiting to link you.
That's a very good point. And no, it is. Like, do you think it's possible that we are so early on that these are problems that may not be problems? Like maybe socially, like people. No, you always have chain analysis, but like, do you think we'll have to worry about this stuff as much in the future? I guess that's the question I'm trying to get at. Will this get easier? Will it get more intuitive? Will there have to be less? Will there be less mental costs, basically?
I think that's an inevitability. I mean, I think first we're going to have, all these brilliant people are coming up with solutions to add privacy to the puzzle. But, we're also seeing the rate of innovation for these apps that the end user is, interacting with. It just feels like a Cambrian explosion of sorts as far as, just think like a year ago. Think of like where we were 2 years ago.
Think about
we really have incredible tools at our disposal.
Thinking about trying to use the dime bag exactly a year ago.
I wasn't on Lightning yet a year ago. Yeah. I didn't know you a year ago. I had met you a little bit before that.
Yeah,
a year and a half ago.
We missed the anniversary.
Wasabi had just launched, I think. Whirlpool wouldn't launch for another 5 months or 4 months.
It's amazing. You know, I heard about Wasabi
Were the satellites launched at this point yet?
Oh, yeah, it was one of the best Wasabi shows there is.
Wasabi.
Yeah, the satellite. I'm not sure how old that's been.
Satellite's less than a year, right?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Definitely the shit post element of the satellite is very new. Right?
That was hilarious, presenting the sat node at Peru College, and they were like, "What's it used for?" Like, mainly shit posting right now.
Yeah,
mainly altcoiners paying in Lightning to talk shit on Lightning.
It's so funny.
It's great.
I think
It's the best advertisement.
going back to shilling Wasabi, I mean, the biggest issue we have with Bitcoin privacy is that our main tool for it is CoinJoin, and Lightning helps a lot because you can CoinJoin and then open channels with it on like a Tor node or something, and then maybe you won't have to CoinJoin in the future again. But the issue with CoinJoin is it costs us fees to do it, minor fees, transaction fees, and is liquidity, right? We need more people to use it. So it's actually one of those elements of Bitcoin where, I mean, we have an incentive to shill it, but people need to shill it, right? Like if you're a proper Bitcoiner, you should be mixing your coins. You should be providing liquidity to other Bitcoiners who need it, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's like running a node almost.
Yeah, for sure.
It's civic duty.
Civic duty. And, never mind, we'll avoid that. No, we
I
shouldn't.
appreciate you avoiding it.
Okay.
I don't know what we're avoiding, but I think you probably had a good gut reaction.
Yeah, it was a good gut reaction. But no, there's a lot of, like, that's the thing. Like, there's so many things to take into consideration. Here's what I'll say. There's so many things to take into consideration right now. I often wonder, like, or I should preface this with we should always trend towards being hyper adversarial and hyper skeptical.
Always, yeah.
But like, it seems like it's working, right? Like, maybe, like, are we like too paranoid? Like, are the problems we see as huge problems right now going to be huge problems in the future?
Almost nobody is using CoinJoin right now.
I think that's part of our thinking with running the workshop and having a focus on, Cold Card Wasabi. It's just really to help us out first and foremost. Like, let's get the people who are coin joining. Let's give them a bigger anonymity set. Let's get as many people into this as we can.
Well,
It was pretty funny in the workshop. We Sybil attacked the testnet network, the testnet Wasabi server. Just like the whole class all joined in, and it was 2 people per. So if some other guy was in there, like, we just knew everything.
Yeah. So whereas the mainnet has like what, up to 100?
It's 100. If it hits 100, it goes, or every 2 hours. I mean, the big thing with Wasabi was we got Bull Bitcoin, which boosts liquidity a lot. But it does appear like it's getting Sybil attacked right now, so it's questionable how much of...
how much anonymity it's providing.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, also, like, how much of the Bitcoin going in is, like, actual...
individuals.
Yeah, or reverse or attacker, right?
Yeah.
Because... they merge outputs after the fact. They can reduce the
then
joinability.
Then you have stupid fucking users like that dude who moved 12,000 Bitcoin like off Wobi into Wasabi.
Yeah.
And like remerged all his outputs after.
Oh my god.
But that could have been an attack.
But why would you do that on like from an exchange?
Why wouldn't you? Like,
That just seemed like this fucking idiot. It just seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to attribute to malice what can easily be attributed to stupidity in most cases.
But the end result is the same, because it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Even for him, if he didn't merge, then it could have been a silent attack because he knew all of his own outputs. But by merging, then anyone could use that data to reduce everyone else's anonymity set, right? That's the only difference. Like, if he didn't merge, then he still knew his UTX. Especially if the attack comes when you run multiple clients. You have like 6 computers, 8 computers, then all of a sudden, 15 of the people in the... This is why they charge a fee, besides that they want to make money. But the idea is that, like, the attacker has to...
resistant.
It's like, the same idea as like Lightning Network, where the attacker has to...
pay.
Yeah, to pay into the network in order to do it. I mean... When we were talking about, like, attack from the U.S. government, well, we were talking about just a major world government. I mean, I see the attack as or at least the first step. I mean, I think the forks might have been an attack. I think they might have been trying to increase the block size to reduce node count and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And create division when that didn't work.
Just mess up the resilience of the network. You know, you have bigger blocks, naturally less people are going to run nodes, and it's going to be easier to attack.
But the next round of attacks is going to be already on this next year's tax form. We're going to have to check a box that says that we've sent, received, owned, whatever, interacted with Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. So that's a first disclosure. And then starting from here, what's going to happen is they're going to slowly get to the point where we have to disclose every address, all our balances, all that stuff. And the question is going to be at that point...
Are we going to fucking stand up and say, fuck you, I deserve some financial privacy. You don't have any business knowing all this shit. Fuck off.
Well, that'll only work if...
No, if people stand up, sack up, and fucking fight for your right for financial freedom.
And if they have the proper tools to actually cover their tracks. Because
that as
if
well.
they don't,
but
then
no.
you're just saying fuck you and writing it into like an
Well, I'm not worried about the tools. I'm more worried about the people standing up and saying fuck you. I'm confident the tools will be there. I'm not as confident that people won't have the balls to stand up for their rights.
We need to get CoinJoin.
Apathy. That's my biggest worry for Bitcoin, and I don't think like how do we get people like fucking cognizant of the fact that they have to worry about this shit, like the future of our digital world. We are transitioning into a digital age, and we have one or two ways we can go. We can be completely surveilled, we can be fucking cows on a digital panopticon, or we can do the hard work. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot harder.
Yep.
It's going to be exponentially harder, but it's going to be fucking worth it. And we are literally at this turning point. And again, I'm not worried about the tools not being there. I'm worried about people just rolling over. And that, like, how do we light a fire under everybody's ass?
All I'm saying is,
I'm not yelling at you. I'm just getting like fucking fired up on the moonshine.
Being able to deny that you use and own Bitcoin is way more defensible and harder to beat down from a societal angle than them knowing exactly how much you have, how you spend
I
it,
agree.
and you just saying fuck you to them, right? Like that's the key.
I
Like,
agree
it needs to be
100%. I agree. You got to back it up with action, like make it hard for them.
Yeah, you tell the feds like, oh, I lost it in like a boating accident, and then
I'm
they
not saying
see, like,
individually you go to the IRS, your IRS agent, and be like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm saying we need a conversation to happen around the world.
There
frankly.
needs to be a public discourse about this.
Right.
About what kind of world we
want.
want to live in and what kind of world we want to leave for our children.
Right? And it's not happening.
dude, public disclosures are going to be the easiest thing. Like, why wouldn't they?
No, discourse. So you need people to talk about the
I
problems.
know, but I'm saying, regardless, like, it's going to come down to the same exact. Like, people were saying they didn't want their Swiss bank accounts to be disclosed, right? Like, they had to disclose them. Like, the U.S. government has precedent here. This is like a. I'm surprised they
get
don't
all
do it
this.
already.
I understand all this, but it has gotten to a point where it's like I'm proverbially trying to shake everybody right now. I'm Billy Madison shaking you. I'm not saying stay here as
Don't
long
shake
as
the
possible.
baby.
I'm saying wake the fuck up. Like, again, we have a decision to make. We can be complacent, roll over, and roll into a fucking hellscape of a future where we can fight for something where people have freedom. And it's all about freedom at the end of the day, liberty. Like, I don't know what it is about, like, who I am, but I just have, like, a visceral hatred for authority. Not hatred, but like I physically shake when somebody tries to tell me what to do or dictate what I do in my life.
It's not hatred. It's you know, it's a questioning.
It's
evaluating.
Can't have
what
hate
the
in your
reasons
heart.
are.
Can't have hate in
Yeah.
your heart, freaks. It's all about peace and love. But
Yeah.
no, again, the moonshine's getting me more riled up. But it's like, no, it's
It's moonshine.
so moonshine's a
Yeah, we know.
passionate drunk. It's a passionate drunk.
It's quite good.
Yeah. No, it's like a visceral, like, just like something is not right. That's the way I'll put it.
I think that's the difference between us and the altcoiners. I feel like Bitcoiners are somewhat philosophically driven, whereas altcoiners are just trying to increase the fiat-denominated value in their bank accounts.
I don't disagree. So what philosophically, like, what are the pillars of your philosophical leanings towards Bitcoin?
I think it all stems essentially from this understanding, or this belief rather, that humans are inherently good, that we're put on this earth for a reason, that that we thrive when we have opportunities, when we have freedoms, and when those things are taken away, things get quite ugly and our opportunities go away, and the overall health of the society diminishes, I would say.
Yeah, this is what we're dealing with, freaks. Are you guys as worried as I am about like the apathy part?
Yeah, because you see it everywhere, and even with real issues that affect people today, whether it be Hong Kong or what's going on in Yemen, or even various.
Nobody talks about Yemen. Thank you for bringing up Yemen.
Yeah, it's really messed up. But even stuff that happens in the States that could affect anyone, people don't want to worry about it. At the end of the day, people just want to go home at the end of the day after working 9 to 5 and put on their favorite soap or whatever and drink their wine and not worry about it. So yeah, apathy is, a huge hurdle, I would say.
I would counter with 2 points. The first point is there's very few things people care more about than their money. So there's a very powerful incentive here that you don't see with other systems. And then the second thing is we really just need a super hyper engaged minority, just like a really super passionate group of highly engaged people. And that's like what we...
Is that us?
Yeah, that's what we foster on like Bitcoin Twitter and on IRC and Telegram and podcasts and workshops
absolutely.
And stuff, right?
100%. And we're really,
Is it enough, though?
Like, what's the ratio there? We don't
Is it
need,
enough?
Can we just have like 1 of 20 people just be hyper or whatever?
That's a lot. 5%?
Hey, listen, it was only like 3% of the revolutionaries that took up arms against the British, and that's all it took.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
So maybe we might be overshooting it. Yeah, 3%ers.
There you go.
Shouts to them.
So it's 3. 3% is like 1 in 20, 1 in 27 or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about how many people in the world. What is there, 8 billion right now?
1 in 33. It's all right. It's the moonshine.
Oh, fuck.
We're
Thanks,
not. We're not too good at math here.
We're working on it.
It's all right.
God damn it.
Nah, but I do feel. Am I just wasting my breath, like getting all worked up about this shit? Like, am I just gonna be fucking fighting against the current, trying to get people to care?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to tell my cousin this because he's very passionate too. Stop trying to red pill people so much and start working on the defense system for Zion. I feel because either someone wants to hear this red pilling of the values that we want to promote, or they don't. Like it's not gonna. You're not gonna move someone over. Like you're not being very humble, thinking that you can move mountains like that. So I think we make more of an impact in our actions than our words, I would say. And we need to keep acting in a manner that's gonna promote the values that we have, I think.
That's very eloquently put. I love that. Stop trying to feed people red pills and start building Zion's defenses.
Zion.
I've never heard that one, dude.
Yeah, I thought of it myself.
Good. I like that.
Zion would be a great name for a Lightning app.
Zion.
Be
Some
careful.
days.
Better get the domain before Mac goes
Well, I
on.
mean, Zion.com
Oh,
is
man.
definitely
With Odell, he's got all the domains.
Zion.com is definitely taken.
I don't
yeah.
stand a chance.
No, I've definitely. I was that person trying to red pill people about Bitcoin at parties and all the time, but I've definitely taken the pedal off the metal the last 3 years.
So Marty, what you need to do is just let people know that you're there, you're available for them anytime they are willing to take the red pill. You're there to talk to them about it and guide them in the right direction. But why try to fight something that they don't want to? Some people don't want to be unplugged.
That's my go-to right now. It is a lot less stressful, and you get into better conversations too. People stop avoiding you at family parties.
No, but if they ask you, my issue now recently has been if they ask me what I do, Or like where I've been lately, it's like, oh, I was in Latvia. Why were you in Latvia? It's like, oh, I was at a Bitcoin conference. And then like at that point, like you have no choice but to show Bitcoin. Like
Right.
why'd you?
Well, that
Yeah, but that's part of your actions too. Like, and it makes them think. Like, it would be one thing if Matt was just a recluse in his bedroom, just reading about it all day. But like, Matt is going to conferences now. Matt's talking to all these people. Matt's running a podcast now. Like, it makes them think a little bit more than that too. You know?
yeah. No, yeah. I think I'm interested to see what my family thinks of the Real Vision interview. Seem like
I can't wait to watch.
I think some
it.
of the people like.
I think I'm gonna do a trial membership.
I'm interested to see if
It's
anybody
only
from
$1 for 3 months.
Oh, not
interested
bad.
to see if anybody from my old work reaches out. One person has already, but like, oh my God, Bitcoin Marty is on Real Vision now. It's like, what the fuck? Even me, like, God, my fucking face on that recording. Sorry for the fat face freaks. I'm gonna stop drinking.
It
And
wasn't a fat face. You looked great.
thank you, Matt.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think you don't focus on necessarily like pre-coiners. You focus on the people who are already.
Here's a good
interested,
question.
That want to learn, right?
What should we focus outside of Bitcoin? What parallel or tangential to Bitcoin do you think is something that could be helpful to its success that we should be championing?
Instead of thinking big scale, how you're going to change the world or the country or New York State or the city, think about as local as you can, and think about the people you interact with on a daily basis and what your interactions with them are like and how you could organize locally to, meet people with the same ideas with you. I think the more direct and more local your actions are, the bigger of a real impact they are,
What drives this philosophy? This is something that seems very well thought out in your mind.
I think it all goes along with the decentralized nature of Bitcoin. And just governance, really. Like, you're going to get more of an effect by going to your town's town hall meeting than you are a town hall meeting for New York City or New York State.
Or Occupy Wall Street, where they're trying to solve.
Or Occupy Wall Street. Yeah, sometimes you're just better off writing the software at home that people are going to interact with than trying to flood their minds with your viewpoints.
Right. Do more action.
More action, yeah.
I have a completely out of the box, going back to the earlier conversation about Zeus.
Sure thing.
So Zeus, the whole point of Zeus is your mobile phone connected back to your routing node, basically, right? Or not necessarily a routing node. I guess it could just be like a private consumer node.
Yeah, it could just be your regular node, but the idea is you have another node set up somewhere in the world that you'd like to connect to and use that as your home base to make transactions from.
Right. So one of the cool things is, like early on, right in the beginning, that functionality was available, but it was only available on your local network. Right, and now if you go through Tor, you can connect remotely wherever you are. You can connect back to your node back at home, right?
Yep.
So do you think, should people be concerned at all about the increased attack surface of having all the functionalities of their node on their phone? Is that something that, what are your thoughts on that?
That is absolutely a concern to have,
That's
I
why
think.
Passcodes don't use biometrics.
Yeah. Stuff like biometrics, like your face and your fingerprints, those aren't passwords. Those are usernames. You shouldn't be using them on anything really sensitive. So, Zeus currently has a password function in there. It's not bulletproof. There's a couple bugs in there, but generally speaking, it'll keep your app secure. We're going to be iterating on that in version 0.1.2, hopefully. But, there's still other things that can be done and should be done. So specifically speaking to L&D, I am really, really, really looking forward to more customization over your macaroons, right? So, let's say you're connecting to a game on Facebook and you want to do Lightning transactions and it charges you every day to get some service. You probably don't want to give up your macaroon that has full read and write access to your node to Facebook.
Right? That's
That's
ridiculous.
that's what we were doing to. But that's what
Yeah, it would be insane.
Jules' solution was that
That's
for a little
what
bit.
Jewel was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Zeus right now, if you want to have the ability to send payments right now, you have to give it the admin macaron. But the things that they're working over on the L&D project, I think Roast Beef is trying to tackle this one too. Is you're going to have these modular macarons. Like, so let's say in this hypothetical situation I painted with a Facebook app, you might want to say, okay, give this app 1,000 sats a day, and then after that, cancel all transactions. And then from that macaroon, you'll also be able to potentially audit all the transactions that got made with it at the end of the day. And you're like, Facebook is charging me, a couple hundred extra sats on they said they would originally. Let me revoke the permissions from this macaroon altogether. So I think having more granular control over your node, and more specifically the access control to your node, is going to come a long way. And I think that's going to come much sooner than later. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
That seems like it'd be a huge improvement, right? Because then you can just go into like set allowances or something like that.
Yeah.
Go on a website, like
Granular permissions, like we have on the phone.
and like
stuff.
it would be even easier. Like you would click the dime bag buy a thought button, and it would just buy it. You wouldn't even have to fucking.
No, but in this case, it'd be giving permissions to the app, right? So you'd still copy and paste or whatever. But if your extension had the permissions,
But then I
right?
could say, listen, I'll only give in 100 sats to TFTC a day. And so I make sure Matt and Marty aren't running away with my full stash or whatever.
No, but we wouldn't be pulling that from you, right? You'd be able to come to the site.
Oh, yeah, of course. And in this scenario, we're saying it's like a full application that you pass the whole macaroon to, and you're not interacting with it with the wallet. But still, like, let's say Zeus hypothetically had bugs or a backdoor or something, it would be much more, you'd be much more reassured to know that you're passing it a macaroon that has a limit as to how many sats you could spend a day or a week or a month, et cetera, on, rather than giving the app the, full keys to the castle.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was even like, we spend all this time you spend all this time building like this node, and it's all open source, and you try and do it all completely right, and then you sync it with Zeus on your iPhone, and you just run it all in a walled garden, and like inside, because you're on iPhone too, right? Or is it
No,
Android
I'm an
only?
Android guy.
Android only?
So unfortunately, at the moment,
Yeah.
to connect Zeus end to end with Tor, you have to be on Android. But we are looking at some solutions for running Tor within, within Zeus on iOS.
You see what Green Wallet
Green
just
Wallet
did?
figured it out.
Yeah, I was looking at Green Wallet's Swift code, and I think that's going to go a long way for enabling Tor support on other wallets. Obviously, there's other nuances that it's got to cover, like, for example, with Zeus, we like to use Tor hidden services, right? So you set up what port the Tor hidden service is on, and it will generate a Tor cookie for you. So if you don't have this cookie that's passed into Orbot, you can't access the service. It's going to look like it doesn't exist. It's not going to reply at all. So there's some nuance into how that could be added on an iOS app, and we need to navigate that landscape. But it seems like there's going to be a lot of advancements with Tor built into iOS apps, and Blockstream and Green Wallet really illustrated that this week.
Wait, so then how does Zap do it on iPhone?
Don't quote me exactly. I do not think that Zap supports connections to Tor addresses right now.
But it supports remote, but not through Tor.
Yeah, it supports remote. We're
Because
not running through Tor.
Yeah, our site.
Yes,
uses it
so a lot of people right now are using this VPN-like technology called Zero Tier to connect
But I
to.
don't think that's what they're using either. That's what Nodal guys are using for a while, right?
Yeah, I think they've plugged that a whole bunch.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive our Zap.
You scanned a QR code,
Yeah,
right?
scan a QR code. That's all I did.
I mean, you could still connect to Tor nodes and have the node communicate on Tor. It's just that I don't think it's possible to connect to your node from Zap with Tor right now. But I think they're working on it. I think I've seen them tweet about it.
Yeah, I mean, the way I discovered your app was the Android's app, because they didn't have an Android app for the longest time,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't have an iPhone app for the longest time. You still don't have one.
No,
right?
we do. We have.
Oh, you have it. You just can't connect remotely.
You just can't connect remotely, and to access the app right now, you need to go through test flight. It's not on iOS App Store.
Give me some access to that bitch.
I know, man. The Apple restrictions are really crazy. For me to even get on the App Store, I have to register as a company, and Zeus is a little early stages. I'm not really sure where things are going to go exactly.
That's insane.
You have to be a registered company, and then I think there's some other licenses you got to have.
Dude.
Whereas Google Play, I just sign up with my account, I plug it, drag the APK, which is like the executable essentially, onto the platform, it uploads, and
It just works.
it just works. It's amazing.
Well,
Even F-Droid's less of a hassle.
Where can freaks help you?
Where can they help me?
How can they help you?
How can they help me?
And where?
Anywhere. So we could use more people just using Zeus. They can download it from Google Play. F-Droid if you've got an Android and are into open source software like that. Or they can get on our test flight. You could access the links to all these things on ZeusLN.app. If you're a programmer, I would really appreciate if you went and tried and checked out the code. If you saw any bugs, file an issue on GitHub. Join us on Telegram. We're on Telegram. There's a link on the webpage, or you could join the group. It's ZeusLN, ZeusLN on Twitter. And just if you like it, spread the word, tell your friends about it, and try it out and just give us feedback. Any feedback, whether it be positive or negative, is always much appreciated in my book.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
One more topic.
Yeah. Fine.
You want to talk about the Raspberry Blitz at all? Your experiences with that?
Yeah,
that guy?
Raspberry Blitz.
We don't talk about it enough on the podcast.
Raspberry Blitz
Is it the Lightning implementation?
Raspberry Blitz is a
Not Lightning.
it's a GitHub project and tutorial on how to put together your own Lightning Network node. So for $130 US, roughly, you get I think last time I did it, it was a Raspberry Pi 3.
And now they do it with the 4, right?
Oh, they've upgraded it.
It's a
Excellent.
big upgrade.
Yeah, so the one I bought had a case, a Raspberry Pi 3, a display, which is really nice touch, and then spinning disk hard drive. And this was like my first real Lightning node. And after working with the project and talking to the maintainers, we were actually able to get an integration there. So we've got 4 really big integrations for Zeus. So Raspberry Blitz, Noddle,
Boss.
MyNode, BTC.
Have you tried that yet?
I just learned about that this week.
No, but I'm thinking about turning the Raspberry Blitz Pi into a MyNode BTC. I was listening to the podcast on Stefan Livera's, and I've been poking into the group, and it seems like he has like a full Tor integration setup too. So if you want to use Zeus over Tor, I think that's a premium feature for them.
That seemed just at an arm's length. That seemed like a very sexy setup, very modular, very.
Yeah. It seems very simple. The UI is straightforward. It's very affordable. So if you want to get like a pre-built solution, it's only like $280, which is
It comes pre-built?
Comes pre-built. I think he syncs it, which there's trade-offs there. If you want to unsync it and sync it yourself, you could do that too.
Do you think anyone should be using a spinning disk at the prices that SSDs are right now?
No. And that is my biggest critique of the Raspberry Blitz, is that spinning disk hard drive, especially with the amount of writes that you're doing to it, more prone to failure. You are much better off biting the bullet, spend a little bit more, get the solid state
They're
drive.
not that expensive anymore.
No, they come down like all the time now. It's fantastic.
So like a 1 terabyte's what, like $60?
What's the
I
difference
don't think
between
it's
the
that
two?
cheap, but it's close. One is a spinning disk. It's much more affordable. We've been using them in computers for decades now. But since there's all these metal spinning components going on in them, they're more likely to break. You've got like a literal
Slower,
needle
too.
that's reading and writing from it. there's stuff that bound to get messed up. Whereas SSD is like completely flash, nothing is moving at all. You're just pumping
pure
electrons
data.
into it.
And they're way fucking slower.
Yeah, and that's a huge bottleneck. I would say when you switch to an SSD when you're running a Lightning node,
Especially initial block download.
the initial block download, the time it takes for that goes down by so much. It's really significant, to be honest. You're going to save yourself a lot of headache. You're going to save yourself from crashes. I had my Raspberry Pi Blitz crash a couple times when it was on a spinning disk hard drive. So yeah, if you're serious about this and you want to interact with Lightning and have a 24/7 node, use an SSD and use static channel backups to like a USB you plug into there.
And now you're all wiser after having spoke to Evan Kaloudis. Evan, fuck, man. Do you have any like parting notes? Like anything you want freaks to focus on? We're almost 2 hours in here. This is my this has been a hell week for your boy here. Not a hell week. Oh man,
it's just been great. Like I was nervous about this, but because honestly, I'm a huge fan of the podcast.
Dude,
like
crushed it.
When I was building Zeus, you know how many episodes of fucking TFTC I listened to? Yes. It really helped push it along.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry you had to listen to all my stupid thoughts.
No, it's all right. It was much appreciated. Every episode I learned a little something. But yeah, I'd want to leave the freaks with a little parting note, a little quote to just, get the engine revving and try to stimulate some thoughts. This quote is by Ayn Rand. I'm not the biggest fan of objectivism and her philosophy per se, but I think this quote really resonated with me, and I would like to share it with everyone. So it goes like this. Civilization is the progress toward a society of privacy. The savage's whole existence is public and ruled by the laws of his tribe. Civilization is the process of setting man free from men.
Peace and love, freaks.